everyone. Welcome to the Glow Podcast. I'm here today with a very exciting guest, and we will get into talking to Shayla. But before that, if you are new here, we are Tailored Marketing, and we partner with skincare clinics, wellness clinics, longevity clinics to fuel growth through strategic marketing and sales strategies. So if you are interested, drop a comment below. Shayla, thank you so much for coming on the Glow Podcast today. I would love if you would just kind of go ahead and introduce yourself so the listeners know who you are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Taylor. My name is Shayla Love. I'm the Director of Regenerative Medicine for Chicago Arthritis. I have been working here for going on 3 years now.
That is awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get into talking about that a little bit more. But how did you kind of get started with your journey in regenerative medicine, and what kind of drew you to that career path?
Absolutely. So for me, it was actually a very divine pathway, I would say.
Yeah.
Because when I was only in junior high, maybe sixth grade, I ran across something called a bioethicist. And so that was the path that I was on, kind of getting behind the legalities of the medical industry. With my degree, I ended up getting my bachelor's in philosophy and with the emphasis in law. And with that, I across a ton of different classes related to bioethics, for example, dealing with things like euthanasia, abortion, and stem cells. So in my career journey after college, I ended up getting into practice administration and management, which ultimately led me to Chicago Arthritis. And I started out as just like an administrative coordinator, and eventually they seen how good I was at this job and with the patients, and ultimately promoted me into a patient liaison, and that role turned into a director for the full regenerative medicine department.
Yeah, no, that's super, super cool. That's such like a fun story because I feel like it's like kind of a different background than most people going into healthcare have, but it allows a lot of versatility because you have had that versatile background as well. And so I guess like for anyone who is maybe not as familiar with regenerative medicine, could you give us just kind of like a little bit of a definition and maybe like some examples of even things that you all do at Chicago Arthritis?
Absolutely. So regenerative medicine is focused on repairing, replacing, and regenerating damaged cells, tissues, joint health, musculoskeletal issues, underlying comorbidities of that sort. Some therapies that we offer here at Chicago Arthritis are PRP and bone marrow procedures, prolotherapy, and eventually coming soon, shockwave therapy as well.
That's super, super cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So so for people who are unfamiliar as well, can you kind of walk us through some of those treatments and like what you all are treating with kind of those types of treatments as well?
Absolutely. So PRP stands for platelet-rich plasma. The idea behind PRP is we use your own plasma and platelets, so basically your own healing and growth factors to regenerate and repair damaged tissues. So we specifically specialize in musculoskeletal issues. So if you're having like tennis elbow or knee pain, pain in your lumbar spine, different areas like that, even we treat things like plantar fasciitis. And that would also be in alignment with our bone marrow procedures as well. So the bone marrow procedure kind of follows the same protocol as PRP. We do a bone marrow draw in the morning. With that bone marrow draw, we process out the stem cells, and then once everything is processed and spun down, we re-inject it into the injured site. So that way those new stem cells in that area can work with the existing stem cells to help recover the injury.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. And I guess like what primarily are you seeing? Like you mentioned the shockwave therapy. Is that kind of like a new therapy, or is it just going to be new to you all at your practice?
So shockwave isn't new. It's been around for a while, at least a decade and a half, but it will be a new service that we will be offering before the end of this year.
That is so exciting. Love new services. And
Yes.
who is that kind of primarily made for then?
So shockwave therapy can be used for athletes. It can be used for patients that are having underlying musculoskeletal issues or damage or carrying diseases like arthritis. I hate to call that a disease because it's so common, but
Yeah.
carrying arthritis. It can be used for anyone who has been injured in any area.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Just like really kind of any musculoskeletal issues. And so obviously with like the mention too of that new service at Chicago Arthritis, what kind of other things do you guys have for future expansion? I know in our first talk, we also talked about kind of some other things as well. So what kind of is on the
Absolutely.
horizon for you guys over there?
Absolutely. So, shockwave therapy is going to be the biggest addition that we're having right now. And these next 2 quarters, this past 2 quarters, we just opened up a satellite clinic in Glenview, which is pretty awesome. Dr. Tambar has been in practice for over 17 years. So, for him to get another clinic says a lot about his growth. And
Yeah.
even so much that we're looking at opening up a third clinic within the next 2 years, a third
Wow.
satellite clinic.
Yeah, wow, that's super, super awesome. And that's just making it easier as well for people to get the care that they need. But are you all are located like in Chicago in the actual city, and then the satellite clinic is kind of more a little bit in like the suburbs?
Yes. So our office is in West Loop, a Fulton Market district, and then the satellite clinic is in Glenview, which is the northwest suburbs. So we're looking at getting closer to that Hinsdale, Oakbrook area as well, Naperville, like the DuPage County area.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. And it just makes it easier for people to get care. Like maybe even people were having to drive like an hour, hour and a half or whatever to come and see you. And now it's cutting that time probably in half or even more.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and in a city like Chicago, I feel like that's definitely important.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I know that we also talked a little bit about too kind of the models with insurance and like kind of how people are best able to pay for services and everything. So what is kind of that model with some of your treatments being self-pay and then some of them obviously being covered by insurance as well?
Yes. So for more conservative and traditional treatments like the gel injections or the cortisone injections, those are the treatments that are more easily covered by insurance. For our
Yeah.
bigger regenerative medicine treatments like the PRP and the bone marrow procedures, they're technically still in the investigational stage with insurance, which just means that it hasn't been around for over 30 years, so there's not enough research behind it for insurance to fully cover it to the extent that they cover other conservative services like replacement surgeries.
Yeah.
So once we've been around for more than 30 years, or regenerative medicine in itself becomes a more common practice, then we will see more insurances begin to cover it. But right now, there's only a small few who will cover a small portion of it. Typically, on average, like our procedure kits start out at around $700.
Yeah.
So insurance will, just for an example, insurance will only cover $75 out of, the $700 kit, and that's not even including the doctor's labor.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, at this time, the PRP and the bone marrow therapy procedures that we offer, and even shockwave therapy, those would be an out-of-pocket expense. But more conservative treatments are eligible for insurance coverage. It just depends on the provider.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And it's kind of crazy, honestly, that they need 30 years to like,
A lifetime for some.
yeah. It's like when you're making constant innovations in like a field like medicine, obviously 30 years ago, we didn't have like a lot of the same technologies that we have now. So it's kind of wild that you need 30 years for it to be considered like, okay, this is it now.
Absolutely. And when you consider our patient demographic, a lot of our patients are elderly already, because Dr. Tambar is a rheumatologist. So he's dealing with the older patient demographic on average.
Yeah.
So they don't have another 30 years to wait on insurance coverage, it's very unfortunate for our society in general because these procedures are not, cheap. The average person doesn't have $3,000 laying around to go get PRP on one site, And then that's another thing. A lot of these patients need multiple sites treated,
Yeah.
not just one area. So it can become pretty pricey, but that's why we have to work on our legislature to make sure that we can make healthcare affordable for everyone.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree with you. And it's also like if somebody is paying for insurance, then they should be able to get what they need.
Exactly. Exactly.
Everyone should, but especially if you're paying for insurance on a monthly basis, probably a significant amount as well, and you're still not able to get the treatments, then it's like,
Right, exactly. It's very frustrating. I deal with this on a daily basis. So
yeah,
I have to interact with those patients, when they're in so much pain and they can't afford this procedure and they've already exhausted conservative therapy options. It's disappointing and it's tough to see and deal with that. I think what balances that out for me though is when we get a patient testimonial because we will request testimonials from patients
yeah,
that the doctor, when he's impressed with their results from the procedure. And so when we get a patient testimonial and they're like, this has made a world of difference for me. I can get out of my car normally again. I can walk up the stairs normally, or I can play with my grandchildren. Like that's what balances it out. But in
yeah.
general, it is pretty hard, when a patient can't get treatment due to finances.
Yeah, no, that is really cool. I'm sure that you've seen like a lot of really, really amazing things happen as well with the treatments. And so, like, is there, besides the ones that you just mentioned, is there even like a story that really sticks out to you, kind of?
Yeah. Now there was a patient that we had, and this one is in alignment with one of the examples that I just mentioned, but she was having like buckling when she was exiting her vehicle, and her bedroom was upstairs, and her children's bedrooms are upstairs, and she couldn't even get to her, infant because walking up her home stairs was causing her so much pain. And when she had treatment with us, she ended up doing a testimonial for us, but she was just raving about like how she can teach classes comfortably again, how she can walk up her stairs comfortably without being in excruciating pain, being at the back of her mind all day.
Yeah.
So, and we work with musculoskeletal issues. So when you think about performing normal daily activities, that's mostly going to be the same issue for everybody. Like I can't get around my house normally, or I can't perform my job normally. So a lot of the testimonials, or a lot of the patients, do have the same testaments, I should say.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, you're able to move a lot better, which, like, when you think about it throughout your day, that's one of the most important things, like when you wake up in the morning and get out of bed, like, you're consistently moving for the most part throughout the day. And so it really is like one of the most important things, I feel like, for everybody, physical and like mental health. Those are like the most
Exactly.
important things.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. And so also, so like with kind of regenerative medicine, obviously becoming kind of, more popular, like I feel like we're starting to hear more and more about it. Where do you kind of see it heading? Not just at Chicago Arthritis, but in general, where do you kind of see it headed over like the next 5 years or so?
I've definitely been seeing a lot more cosmetic regenerative
Yeah.
medicine practices. So at med spas, they're offering like PRP for under eye bags or even reproductive health, which is super surprising for me. Even
Yeah.
we've had a few different leads call in like, do you do the O shot or do you do the P shot? Do you do PRP for ED? And so I definitely think it's going to break records in the med spa industry or more so on the cosmetic industry because it's not a traditional use for regenerative medicine and people love to fix themselves up. And if you tell them you can do it, without any foreign compounds or without any pharmaceuticals, then they're going to opt for the more natural resource.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that one of the coolest things too about regenerative medicine is like just what you just said. You're not using any foreign things. Like, I mean, anytime that you're injecting anything, you can have a bad reaction to it, but it's a lot less likely if it's something that your body already like knows what it is. It's not completely foreign.
Exactly. I would like to say it's not foreign at all because when you think about it, the platelets and the plasma that we use in PRP come from the patient's own blood. It's not like we're using blood from another organism or using blood from another patient. It's their blood. So was ultimately produced by their body. And that's the coolest part about regenerative medicine is we're using your own bodies, or at least regenerative medicine at Chicago Arthritis. We're using your body's own platelets and stem cells and plasma to heal whatever injuries that, you want treated.
Yeah. No, it's really cool because it is such like a natural process, it's not, you're not having to put screws or anything like that. It's like, okay, exactly. We just are reusing what your body already knows. And it just like, for me as someone who like would be really nervous about like screws or something like that, I feel like it probably eases people's minds a lot more too.
Right. Yeah, it does. Especially for me personally, I am not one of those people that is like, let me get an ibuprofen or let me get a Motrin. I'm a very big on like holistic medicine. So working at a practice where we're using basically our own blood supply or our own stem cells to provide healing, that was such a green flag for me because we're giving patients an alternative to putting a chunk of metal in their body, or continuing to have those steroid injections or, pharmaceutically compounded injections. So that's such a green flag for me. And I know it has been for other patients as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And with regenerative medicine not being, I guess, like as widely studied, do you have patients that will come in and like you guys are explaining these different procedures to them and maybe they had like misconceptions about it kind of beforehand that you have to like clear up for them of like, okay, this is what this is?
You will be so surprised how many patients don't even know what platelet-rich plasma or a stem cell procedure is. For example, we had a patient a couple of weeks ago. She ended up having her stem cell procedure and she had a few doctor's appointments, I guess, afterwards. And she's telling her other providers, oh, I had a stem cell transplant. Oh, I had a stem cell transplant. So it's like, wait, we fully educated you on this procedure and you still don't know what it is. We have that happen so frequently. It's really under the radar. You would be so surprised how many people don't know what PRP or stem cell marrow concentrate procedures are in general.
Yeah. No, for sure. I would say is like probably like I feel like people are still being educated on it because it is still like fairly new, like they're just like you said, or they're using like the incorrect terminology and they're like, yeah, wait, I don't think you can do that in the US yet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the other doctor is probably like, where did you get that done?
Right, and why did you have one for your knee?
Yeah.
That's really oncology treatment.
Yeah, no, that's really, really funny. Yeah, I feel like there are still just kind of like misconceptions, and I feel like that's one of the challenges of like being in a practice or like really an industry too, where it is newer, not new, but like newer, and so you almost have to educate people about what it is, how it's going to help you, as well as actually giving the help too. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, awesome. And if you could give kind of one piece of advice to patients considering regenerative treatments, what would it be?
It's not don't expect overnight results. We have
Yeah.
patients all the time. I can't testament for them, but the physician is not expecting results overnight. We have patients that call us all the time like, gosh, this is the day after their procedure. I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And so don't expect, we're not expecting you to, have overnight results, even though it is not impossible for that to happen. The treatment alone could provide enough relief for you to feel better by the next day, sure, but will you have the level of results that we're hoping that you see the next day? More than likely not. And
Yeah.
then number two, it requires work. Maintaining the treatment is it's not a treatment where you can come lay on the table and it's resolved. Like we're not removing tonsils here. That's not how this works. So this is a procedure where we expect exponential results incrementally over time. So we expect
Yeah.
you to be feeling better at month 3 than you felt at month 1. We expect you to be feeling better at month 6 than you felt at month 3. So that's what the expectations are for the results. And with that being said, there are a few guidelines that patients just seem to forget about after the
Yeah.
treatment, which we need you to do that physical therapy. Physical therapy will help to enhance the results. And then also being on a low carb diet and abstaining from alcohol for about 30 days after the procedure, even though it's not required, will help maximize the efficiency of the treatment.
No, that totally makes sense. I feel like for a lot of stuff, it's like also what you do after, like you just said, for it to actually be effective. So that completely makes sense. Well, tell everybody, where is the best place to find you? Where is the best place to find Chicago Arthritis? I'll also put everything in the show notes as well for easy access, but you can tell everybody too.
All of our social media handles are at Chicago Arthritis on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can go to our website, which is chicagoarthritis.com. And then otherwise, you can find us at 618 West Fulton in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, awesome. And I'll put that as well, like I said, in the show notes. Thank you so, so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, it's been my pleasure. You've been great. Thanks for having me, Taylor. And I think the glow is awesome. Good luck with your future interviews.
Thank you.